All right. So you're looking at the pipeline, CI/CD pipeline page right now, and talking in terms of importance, it's a page that's visited by so many different roles on an everyday basis. For example, it's definitely like one of the most important pages for a software developer working for an organization, but it's also important for the DevOps engineers, the security analysts, the compliance managers to some extent, then um, the people who are responsible for the environment, because most of these things, they are in one or the other way related to pipelines, and this is where they come to see like what's the health of their environments, the deployments, the compliance related requirements. So in short, this is a really important page in GitLab, and talking about like the kind of traffic that this page sees, I'm going to be showing some stats here. And even though this is not like really the ideal one, but when we hover here, it says 492,000 views in last 30 days. So this is the second most visited page in the product. And that's what makes it a really like critical page to work with. Now, around 1.5 years ago, what happened was our front-end team in pipeline execution, they got very busy dealing with the many incidents that were reported in relation to this, to the layout breaking on this page. And this was coming at a time when there were so many different issues which were being worked on, which were going to add something to the page. So it was like quite scary for us. Like this threw us off, and the series of like this whole series of events. And that's when we decided that, okay, let's talk about it. So the changes that were queued to be added to this page, of course, they were valuable. They had gone through the problem validation phase. They were like, we had a decent amount of confidence that users would be like very glad to have those additions in here. But if the page cannot, I mean, if the page doesn't load, then there's no point talking about the value part, right? So today I would be talking about like for this page, how are we working on keeping this pipeline list view future-proof while we also work on adding some value to for our users through this page. All right, so the first thing that we did after learning about those incidents was we started with a discussion, like because it was something that was really urgent. We did not have a lot of time to like conduct a research, really think about it for a long time. But we wanted to see like what's the next smallest thing that we can do that can make a big change, that can like give us some wiggle room to think more later, but what's the very first step that we should be taking. So keeping on all the constraints in mind, all the ongoing work, the queued work, everything in front of us, we started off with like, what should be the path forward? And from this discussion, what we concluded was that the first thing we need to do is make space on the page. So that was the brief for that time, like make space, do something and make space. Following that discussion, there was this issue created which said rearrange pipeline index page layout to create more space. At this point, we did not have, I mean, of course, we knew like what are the primary jobs to be done, which are related to this page. So we were keeping that in mind, that we would like do everything so that those are not disrupted. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the page does not break, and we can assure stability to and performance to our users. So through this page, we tried to like keep the content intact. I mean, through this proposal, we try to keep the content intact and just rearrange things in a way that they are information bits which are scattered across the page. They are like brought together in a more coherent form, and they are still like discoverable. They are still easy to notice. They don't confuse our users who have been very used to looking at the page that we previously had. And talking about the page that we previously had, I would go to this merge request and click on how it used to look before. So we had too many columns like status, pipeline ID, trigger. There was a separate column for commit as well. And this is one of the like good use cases because the pipeline IDs are not long, and like there are many. It doesn't have too many labels. But imagine if on this page with this size of many pipeline graphs and long pipeline IDs, it used to look really busy and it was very difficult to work with. So this was a success. Like the very first attempt was a success, and we were like, it did give us some time to think further and plan out like what was the next thing that we would want to do. And that's when this issue was created. This was created to keep a track of everything that we would be doing to keep this page healthy, performing, and at the same time ensuring that we are not eroding any value. So it's not always about adding value, but there, with when a product is scaling and the challenges, they like drastically change. Um, Ensuring that we are not eroding the value that we are already providing to our users also becomes a challenge. All right, so this was implemented, but at the same time, what we implemented was like another bunch of issues. So we improved the action button layout. We started showing pipeline IID. These were all disconnected from each other. These were small little efforts which were planned even before I started to take care of the work in this stage group. But like they were very well validated, and they were very well sought, they were sought by the community. They had a lot of people following these changes, so it was really desired by the community. All right, so these many changes happened, and individually they were each one well validated. But then there came a time, especially after we made all of these space-related changes, that we felt that the delta, like what the page looked like maybe 3 months ago and how it looks today, it's really different. So we, just to be sure that we are not causing any disruption to the workflows, we thought we would conduct a solution validation exercise. And this was really helpful because this really opened our eyes. So individually, users did not have any problem with any of these additions, but when they came to the page, they always found that something had changed, and how they used to work previously, they had to change their workflow. There were some hiccups, but at the same time, we learned that even though we spoke to about 9 to 10 users, out of which I would say 8 were good responses, we figured each and every person works with this page in a very different method. Like we couldn't establish a standard workflow when it comes to the pipeline list view page. And that kind of, I wouldn't say it scared us, but it did make us more cautious of our next steps. So we thought that, okay, we have received a bunch of insights that we would love to work with, but at the same time, we couldn't say with a lot of confidence that if we just go ahead and make changes based on only these insights, it would be like very useful for our users. So that's where we try to change our course. We realized that the data, the qualitative data, the insights that we have, they're very useful, but at the same time, we felt the requirement to triangulate that with like statistics. And that's where we started to track the actions on the pipeline list view. And we created like all these labels and actions. And this is the dashboard that we have now, where you can just go and see which are the actions which are, which are the most used actions, and in terms of importance, which one stands at the top. And this helped us like bring together with the qualitative and quantitative side and make better decisions in the future. We started to create issues, like small issues, as a part of our work and seeing that through. And so far, there's only one that caused actual disruption in users' workflow, and I'll get to it because that's a small story of a failure, but that did teach us a lot. Otherwise, we are now constantly keeping a track of the performance of this page. We keep visiting the dashboard regularly. In the team, we have this like small ritual where we um, discuss about how the performance is going and create, if not monthly, I would say bi-monthly issues about pipeline speed goal. So I know it says pipeline speed goal, but it's mostly about how the pipeline list view page is responding. So we put the Lighthouse data here, and based on that, we have discussions on the issues, as in what should be the next step now. Like we shouldn't be content because we are very sure that there'd be more things that in future that we would require to add to this page, the changes that we would require to make sure that we are consistently improving the experience that we are providing to our users. And users in this case is an array of personas, not just one persona. So keeping those things in mind, it's a continuous effort to make sure that this page can always take some amount of change that we are making to add value. And the format that I had proposed that we should use for proposing a change based on the data that we are consuming is listing the proposal, assumption, and evidence, because I did not want us to be not cognizant of what risks we are taking. So I thought we should like really have in mind what are the assumptions that we are making that would require to be validated before we go ahead and work on a proposal and implement it. So this is the format that we followed, like putting down the proposal, then also stating what are the assumptions that I'm making while making this proposal, and then what are the evidences that support that my proposal would be a success. So we did this, and based on this, we were able to create an issue which is now going to be worked on. The data for this is coming from Lighthouse, the dashboard that we have created. And also, we also have in the back of our mind the insights that we have received through our user researches. So everything is playing a role here as we move forward. And we did not stop here. We are now constantly posting the page performance. And as we see another opportunity through these new statistics, we are going to create a new issue. Now, talking about the failure stories, what happened was there was this issue, which is again an isolated one related to the pipeline list view page. For linking pipelines by the names commit rather than ID in the UI. And it was, where can I see the words? Okay. An old issue related to this was very much upvoted, and there were a lot of conversations going on. So we went ahead, we thought was a small change to make and worked on it, but it backfired. So we had to roll it back. And this was my update on why we are rolling it back and the learnings that we carried from that experience. Anyway, so this was a good example of how critical everything that's there on this page is to the workflows of our users. And even though that we felt that we're just shifting a link, we're just shifting a link from a sentence to a number, but it was very disruptive. So now whatever we do with a lot of caution. And that's where we are at with this effort. But I can say that this is not the end. I don't even think this is the middle of the effort, and this is going to go on for a long time, but it's just something that we have been dealing with continuously to make sure that we are not taking away the value that we are already providing to our users. Thanks. Questions?
Maybe I'll just ask my question and then I can write it down. I missed the timeline of your presentation. Was it like a year, couple months, couple weeks? I love the progression and the stuff you were walking through, but I just wanted to reframe my mind around realistically, how long did that take?
It has been going on since 1.5 years.
Perfect.
I'll just verbalize mine too. With the removal of the ID in the UI, you said you shifted it from, was it shifted from its own cell into a different cell in a sentence, or was it completely removed?
So currently what's happening was like we use the name of the commit for which the pipeline is running as the title for the pipeline. So we thought if we are going to like roll in this feature that would allow users to define a pipeline name, it cannot appear on top of the commit name. We have to keep only one because it would make this page like really busy and really crowded. And we already provide an ID for the commit. So our decision was that we would take away the link from the commit name and put it on the commit ID because it's already there. I mean, what difference does it make? But turned out it makes a lot of difference.
What was the feedback on the issue that you posted, or how did you get the feedback? I'm just wondering like how different teams deal with, you know, backlash in these kinds of scenarios where we try something out that we think is, you know, just a small change and then it turns out to be catastrophe.
The first backlash started to appear like internally itself, like on what is this known channel? So that was our first cue. And I think I saw one comment on Twitter, and it was Marcel who actually helped me through this whole thing. That we talked about on Slack about rolling this back, and then an issue was created, the developers were communicated, and I posted this comment on the issue outlining why I had, like why we took this step and what's our plan ahead and how to avoid such situations in future, especially.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I was just writing a question. I think mine's next. I was curious. I really appreciate your approach on ensuring these new features are delivering value and/or improvement, because things are always changing. So that way they do see the changes as something good. I was just curious, did you do any more exploration into that perception of constant change, and is it potentially leading to change fatigue? And yeah, I'm just curious if you had any thoughts around that.
No, we did not. I mean, we did not research on that particular aspect yet. We have been thinking more about like individual set of changes and not we haven't given it a thought how users would be feeling if we compound everything that we have done so far and how they have been adapting to the process, but that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious. If you ever do any of that, let me know. I'm curious to see what that shakes out to look like.
Sure.
I had another question too. I was curious if there was like a specific design decision around how to style the links for the pipeline ID, the merge request ID, and the commit, or if it was just like carryover from what we already had.
It was a carryover. Then I created a merge request. It's still there, and I got a ping from Jeremy, I think yesterday, which I'm yet to respond to. So that discussion is going on because we are facing this problem. There are so many different links. They all look different for some reason. And it's contributing to this page looking visually a little noisy, I would say.
Cool. Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, so since my next one is mine is more of a comment or just a question. I was really impressed by the fact that the team also started to involve the performance as part of the experience factor. So did you like start from the beginning that like this performance of this page was a little bit problematic, or did you also bring into this topic a little bit later when you already working on the design?
So this discussion used to always happen when there was a change to that page, but it was never so serious. So I never took it as critically. But this time, when they actually sounded the alarm and there were so many issues created around, oh, this is breaking, the buttons are apart, things are appearing on the next line, what is happening on this page? That's when we thought, first, we are going to fix this. Then we're going to ensure that this doesn't happen again, at least not in foreseeable future. And then we would come back to working on adding other things or changing things on this page.
Oh, that's very good. Thanks for sharing that. I'd like to also consider performance in my next design iteration. So thanks for sharing. I'd like to
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
And as an outcome of this whole process, I also worked on adding a page to pajamas around responsive first. The link for that I've added to the agenda as well.
Any more questions?